Well, that was Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole on Tuesday, repeating his pro-choice credentials in the face of attempts by some social conservatives in the party, not just to reopen the abortion debate, but to change the party's position on the issue. They're hoping to force a vote at the party's virtual convention and next week to change the party's constitution. The official party position is that it does not support abortion legislation. Social conservatives want to change that to make the party officially pro-life. There's also a push to have grassroots authority to fire MPs and to veto any decisions by party brass to control nominations. The internal challenges are part of a series of negative distractions for the Conservative leader these days. Jack Fonseca is the Director of Political Operations for Campaign Life Coalition. He joins me now. Mr. Fonseca, first of all, thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Peter.
Okay, let's talk about the constitutional amendments your organization is pushing for at the upcoming virtual convention. What change are you trying to make to the party's position on abortion?
Well, it's very simple. And to take you back a little bit, the reason why we're doing it through the constitutional route is the party did a bit of a dirty trick in changing the rules for this convention, quite drastically different from what it did in the past. So there's multiple stages in policy development that lead up to the policies that make it to convention for a vote. And in past conventions, at the EDA voting phase, the top 100 vote-winning policies got to advance to convention for debate and discussion and a vote by delegates. This time, seeing that, we believe, seeing that social conservatives were a lot more engaged as delegates and there would likely be a higher number, they slashed the number of vote-winning policies that were allowed to advance to convention from about 100 policies to a paltry 30.
I was going to say it's down to around 30 now, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So from 100 to 30. So they slashed it by 70%, and we believe fully that it was to suppress social conservative policies.
Can you tell me? I mean, can you tell me how? Has there been a concerted effort by social conservatives to be able, and I'm not sure it's the right word, to not so much, I guess, stack the delegate representation, but maybe that's what it is. Has there been a concerted effort to make sure social conservatives are more widely represented at this virtual convention?
I think there was more engagement this convention, definitely. We always encourage our supporters who are Conservative Party members to attend convention. It's been easier, frankly, because of the lower price. So because it's a virtual convention, you don't have to pay for airfare and travel and hotels. That's the main reason why, for social conservatives, it's going to be a higher turnout this convention. And that's the primary reason.
Okay, so you're trying to change the party constitution to include anti-abortion language. You need 100 delegates, as I understand it, from 100 different ridings to force a vote on that proposed amendment. Do you think you have that support?
Yeah, so we already submitted the constitutional amendment that would expand the existing language, which is pretty good. I mean, there's a principle in the Conservative Party constitution that says something to the effect of we respect the dignity and value of all human life. So we're just tacking on a few extra words. We respect the dignity and value of all human life from conception to natural death. So that will achieve the goal of the policy that was rigged for elimination by the party establishment. So
what do you mean when you say rigged by the party establishment? I mean the current policy that the party has now was supported by delegates at the convention.
Yeah, and it was narrowly, it was almost eliminated the last time. What I'm talking about is the current. Yeah, but what I'm talking about was the current EDA voting phase that I just described a moment ago, where the party slashed by 70% the number of policies that were allowed to advance the convention. And that was to suppress that policy, the policy to delete Article 70. So we're saying, okay, you've rigged the system so that it can't make it to convention. We're going to use the constitutional process instead. So Article 16.4 of the Constitution of the party allows that to be put to a vote if you have signatures from 100 delegates in 100 different ridings.
What if your amendment were to pass? How can you have a party with an anti-abortion constitution and a leader who vows he's pro-choice?
Well, it just would be different, that's all. So the Constitution and the policy declaration is something that belongs to the members, the grassroots members, and it's supposed to reflect their values and principles.
Right, but if you have a leader who's pro-choice, if that were changed in the Constitution, would you then expect members of parliament to be allowed to bring forward anti-abortion legislation and for the leader to allow that to happen?
Well, we would hope it would nudge him in that direction for certain. It's my understanding is it's not binding in that way at all. It doesn't require it doesn't compel the speech of the leader. It's the principle it's one of the principles that are contained in the Conservative Party.
Right, but in practical terms, I know that in practical terms that if you were successful in passing this amendment, you wouldn't just sort of end it there, would you? One presumes you'd then campaign and push hard to have that statement reflected in the Constitution show up in policy inside the party somewhere.
Well, of course, we would always do that. We would always push for pro-life principles and policies and legislation to be embraced. But you can't force Aaron O'Toole to become pro-life if he believes in killing children before birth. What can you do about that?
How do you think it helps the party's election chances to have this internal debate over abortion when voters are looking for the best choice to get them through a pandemic and rebuild the economy?
I think the more that the Conservative Party can appeal to social conservatives, to moral conservatives, the people that typically stay home on election day because they see no moral difference between the Justin Trudeau liberals who are rabidly pro-death, rabidly anti-family, and if they see a contrast where the Conservative Party actually shares their values or shares some of their values, and there's a distinct difference, it actually helps the Conservatives. We know that because if you just let me finish the point, we know that. I mean, just look at Doug Ford in the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario. I mean, he's gone way far left liberal now, but he ran the 2018 Ontario provincial election on a largely socially conservative platform. He was against an abortion bubble zone law. He was for repealing the radical sex ed curriculum. He supported. He said he'd support legislation for parental notification with minor children getting abortions, and he was awarded with a supermajority.
Let me ask you: Are you suggesting? Are you saying that because you know the argument? The argument here is so if the policy doesn't change. Social conservatives are a significant segment of the Conservative Party. Who else are they going to vote for? Are social conservatives suddenly going to leave because the policy doesn't change? Are you going to not vote Conservative because the policy changes? Because the policy doesn't change?
Well, that's not really the issue. I mean, it's more an issue.
But it is, Mr. Fonseca, it is the issue for some of the people around this political conversation who say, we can argue against this change to the Constitution because they're going to vote for us anyway. Social conservatives have nowhere else to go.
No,
they're going to vote Conservative.
But that's not true.
Okay.
But that's not true because they can stay home, and they do. When you get a leader who attacks their values, who attacks their the promises that they made previously, they do have another choice, and they use it in very large numbers, which is to stay home on election day, and then the Conservatives lose the election. So. Aaron O'Toole should not be listening to the people around him, the advisors who tell him, well, they got nowhere else to go, because that's simply not true. They can stay home, they can stay in bed on E-Day, and they will do that.
Let me ask you about the Mr. O'Toole campaigned on a promise of a big tent leadership open to all voices. There's lots of people talking about fractures in the caucus over where he's taking the party and some concern about what his election platform is actually going to be. What do you think of where Mr. O'Toole is now in that promise of big tent leadership?
Well, it hasn't materialized. He's gone far left very quickly. So he, as you know, he only became leader because he benefited from the down ballot votes of the pro-life Leslyn Lewis and the pro-life Derek Sloan. And he appealed directly to social conservatives and contrasted himself with a better friend to social conservatives than Peter MacKay. And now he's done a terrible job. He has expelled the most visible pro-life, pro-family MP in the caucus, Derek Sloan, and made a lot of other errors, a lot of other missteps to insult his socially conservative base.
All right, Mr.
So
Fonseca.
this is a way to make up for some of that too. So if the party enshrines in its constitution and its policies some socially conservative values, it's a way for people to say, okay, this party still has something for me, and they'll go out and recruit their friends and neighbors from their and their church members to go out and vote Conservative in the next election. They'll pound in lawn signs, they'll donate, all those kinds of things. So it's good for the party overall.
All right. We'll watch how the debate unfolds. Thanks for your time tonight, and we'll look forward to that virtual convention, and we'll have a lot of it covered here on CPAC. Thanks again.
All right, thank you.